5 days before the wedding, Xie Heyun suddenly proposed taking his childhood sweetheart as a concubine. Jingyi has been branded. She can never marry again. Why not let her enter the manor with you on your wedding day? At least she'll have a place to stay. My hand paused mid-stroke as I wrote the marriage contract. Ink dripped. It fell precisely over the bride's name. Agreed. I lowered my gaze and nodded. He was truly impatient. Had he been just a fraction more composed, he would have seen the name of the primary wife on the marriage contract. His childhood sweetheart, Shen Jingyi, not me. I imagine Xie Heyun had rehearsed my response countless times before coming. Hearing the answer he desired, he visibly relaxed. But I felt no such ease. I'd spent the entire morning writing this marriage contract. Only the final 2 characters remained. The bride's name obscured it was inauspicious. For the union to be complete and smooth, I had no choice but to write another. Xiangshu, fetch another dragon phoenix scroll. I instructed my maid. This remark made Xie Heyun suspicious. Mingyu, are you angry? I replied coolly, no. Yet he persisted in explaining. Lord Shen and his wife did me a great favor. Now that they are gone, Enna Jing cannot marry due to her facial tattoo. It is my duty to care for her for the rest of her life and repay this debt. I knew this. He had repeated these words to me countless times. He said that back when the Xie family had fallen on hard times. During a heavy snowfall, Shen Jingyi's parents took him in for months, saving him from starvation in the bitter cold. He also recounted how 8 years ago, Magistrate Shen of Jingju was implicated in a salt tax scandal, wrongfully imprisoned, and how Shen Jingyi suffered the consequences, her face branded with a tattoo. Though the injustice has now been rectified, both Magistrate Shen and his wife have passed away. The tattoo on Shen Jingyi's face cannot be erased, making it impossible for her to marry again. To repay this debt of gratitude, he had no choice but to bring Shen Jingyi into the Xie household. He could only take her as his concubine, vowing to protect her for the rest of her life. At first, I thought it was inappropriate. I tried to persuade him. I made a scene. I even felt wronged. But now, I've come to accept it calmly. How could I possibly be angry? To prove it, I suggested, the Shen family has done you a favor, and Miss Shen is pitiful. Taking her into the mansion quietly is still improper. Why not have her board the wedding sedan chair from my home on the day of the wedding? That way, we avoid gossip. Xie Heyun studied my expression carefully. Seeing my serene countenance, he realized I truly didn't look angry. He finally relaxed. But before leaving, he confirmed one last thing. Mingyu, that talisman, do you still wear it close to your heart? I touched my chest. Smiling, I nodded. Yes, I do. 3 months prior, a wandering Taoist priest had arrived in Xianzhou. Word spread that his talismans were remarkably potent. Seek wealth, and you'd gain unimaginable riches. Seek a match, and you'd find the perfect partner. One man had prayed for official advancement and soon passed the imperial examinations as top scholar. Yet obtaining his talisman was no easy feat. Not only did one need sincere devotion, but also deep pockets. 300 taels, an astronomical sum for ordinary families. Even for Xie Heyun, the newly appointed magistrate of Hui County, it was a considerable sum. Yet he sought it out nonetheless. He folded the talisman into a small triangle, placed it in a silk pouch, and gave it to me. The day he handed me the pouch, he cautioned, Mingyu, even if you recover, you must wear this talisman for 49 days to ensure lasting protection. At that time, I had contracted a cold and developed a cough after falling into the lake. I drank 1 dose of medicine after another, yet saw no improvement. Learning that he had spent a fortune to obtain this talisman for my safety, the neighbors and people of Hui County all praised his deep affection and profound sense of duty. They envied my good fortune. Even my parents praised him. We thought this boy was impulsive, but he's shown such devotion to you. father was narrow-minded and misjudged him. My father served as the headmaster of Yanming Academy. Xie Heyun was a student he had personally taught. Yet he held little regard for Xie Heyun. In the past, he often remarked, "The boy is clever enough, but his mind wanders. He lacks ambition." Ah, what a pity! Later, when I chose Xie Heyun from among the many suitors who had sent marriage proposals, he was strongly opposed. You mustn't choose a husband based on looks alone. Though he is handsome and now holds the position of deputy magistrate of Hui County, his character truly makes him an unsuitable match. At the time, I thought my father was biased. Clearly, Xie Heyun worked hard and was kind-hearted. Back then, he always reviewed his lessons under the loquat tree on the back mountain after class. Whenever I had questions I couldn't solve, I'd write them down and place them under the large rock beneath that tree. The next day, I'd always find his insightful replies waiting for me. He was genuinely kind. Every time I visited the academy, he'd blush as he guided me there. He was even a man of his word. Before heading to the capital for the imperial examinations, he promised, "Miss Zhang, if I pass, I will not disappoint you. I will return to propose marriage." He kept his word, 17th place in the first-class rankings. Had he stayed in the capital, such an achievement would have guaranteed boundless prospects. Yet he chose to return. And the very first thing he did upon his return was to present the marriage contract. I thought I had made the right choice, that my father had misjudged him. But I was wrong. The one who misjudged was me. For the talisman he had obtained through 3 kneels and 9 bows and a heavy sum of money did not protect me from illness or harm. Instead, he used it to wish for my virtue and magnanimity. Shen Jingyi, exiled to Zhenzhou due to the salt tax case, was pardoned and sent back. When Shen Jingyi returned, Xie Heyun and I had been betrothed for just 2 months. That day, it poured out at the county office gate. She stood without an umbrella, clutching a small bundle in the downpour, her voice wailing, "Brother Xie, I didn't want to come find you, but I truly have nowhere else to go." Xie Heyun emerged just in time to catch her as she fainted. Before everyone's eyes, he carried her, soaked to the bone, into the county office. That very night, he brought her back to the Xie residence. I only learned of this 7 days later. Someone asked my mother, "I hear your future son-in-law brought a girl back to the manor. Who is she? Is she his mistress?" That's when he invited me to the restaurant to explain. He explained Shen Jingyi's identity. He said, "Mingyu, Jingyi is pitiful. You'll see when you meet her, her face is branded. I have no romantic feelings for her whatsoever. Rest assured, in a couple of days I'll buy a house and move her there." But Shen Jingyi, who had followed them, overheard these words. Tears streaming down her face, she said, "Brother Heyun, I am not that kind of woman. Rest assured, I will never cause you trouble." After speaking, she ran out. She dashed into a dilapidated temple, intending to hang herself from the rafters, but Xie Heyun caught up and saved her. What exactly transpired in that ruined temple, I cannot say. But from that day onward, the matter of relocating Shen Jingyi was repeatedly postponed. I asked again. Xie Heyun grew impatient. "Mingyu, I only see a Jing as a sister. Why can't you be more magnanimous? Must you drive her to death before you're satisfied?" But I was never a magnanimous girl. The day before the matchmaking ceremony, I had clearly asked him, "I only want a marriage like my parents who one husband for one wife, for life. I want my husband to have no one but me. Can you give me that?" He said yes, so I chose him. But he broke his promise. Time and again, he made exceptions for Shen Jingyi. Shen Jingyi's status shifted from daughter of my benefactor to sister, to concubine to be brought into the household. He even went so far as to procure this talisman at great expense, hoping it would make me more magnanimous so I could accept Shen Jingyi and allow her to enter the manor on the same day as me. He didn't know I was there the day he sought that talisman, separated only by a door. I heard him sigh with frustration. My fiancée is perfect in every way, except she's far too jealous. She can't stand even the slightest imperfection. But poor Jingy, if I don't take her in, she'll have nowhere else to go in this world. I hear every talisman sought here works without fail. Is there one that makes a woman virtuous and magnanimous? When he learned the talisman required 3 kneels and 9 bows to take effect, he knelt without hesitation. He knelt correctly. 49 days passed as he wished. I learned magnanimity. Magnanimous enough to let him go. Magnanimous enough that the bride's name on the marriage contract wasn't mine. I had discussed Shen Jingyi's departure from our home with my parents. Thus, when Xie Heyun brought her on the 3rd day, they said nothing. Xie Heyun, however, worried she might not adjust. He repeatedly urged me, Jingyi is timid. Unless it's urgent, please don't disturb her. She endured years of hunger and cold. Her stomach is weak. Meals shouldn't be too coarse. She caught a chill recently. I brought medicine. Please keep an eye on her. She dislikes bitterness. He covered every detail. After finishing his detailed instructions, he pulled an exquisite brocade box from his sleeve and handed it to me. Oh, MINGYUE. Yesterday, at Croway Pavilion, I saw this jade hairpin and thought it would suit you perfectly, so I bought it especially. It's for you. Do you like it? Bought it especially for me? But this jade hairpin clearly matched Shen Jingyi's jade bracelet, hair ornament, and headpiece. It was obviously Shen Jingyi's leftovers, discarded before being given to me. It's unnecessary. Give it to Miss Shen instead. I have many such hairpins. I looked at him indifferently, refusing to take it. As the words fell, my gaze happened to rest on his shoulder. Today, he wore a moon-white brocade robe. The pale fabric made the powder and lip balm on his shoulders stand out sharply. But he followed my gaze downward, as if only now noticing the lip balm. He explained. Ajing stumbled when stepping down from the carriage. The rouge and powder must have rubbed off when I helped her. Mingyu, you know how it is. She's a young lady at that age when beauty matters most. With a branded mark on her face, it's only natural she feels insecure and wants to adorn herself. You won't be angry, will you? Lately, he'd taken to asking this question often, as if testing the potency of that talisman. He'd once arranged for me and Shen Jingyi to meet at the restaurant, deliberately chatting and laughing with Shen Jingyi. To me, he said, Mingyu, Jingyi and I haven't seen each other in years. We chatted a bit longer than usual. Don't be upset. Then, when both Shen Jingyi and I stumbled down the stairs at the same time, he deliberately let go of my hand. He asked me, Mingyu, I caught Jingyi. You're not angry, are you? Even during the festival of 10,000 flowers, knowing full well that the sachets given by women expressed affection, he still wore the silk pouch Shen Jingyi had given him at his waist. He challenged me, it's just a pouch. I treat Jingyi like a sister. Does that make you angry too? Angry, of course I was angry at first. After all, I had feelings for him. To help him excel in his studies, I secretly borrowed books from my father's collection. Knowing his family's hardship, I'd secretly brew soup for him whenever I visited my father at the academy. Last year, when he went to the capital for the imperial exams, fearing he'd endure rough conditions, I sold all my jewelry behind my parents' backs to give him the silver. But when he handed me that talisman personally, through his repeated tests, I'd long since learned I'm not angry. I smiled, affectionately linking arms with Shen Jingyi as I assured Heyun, rest assured, I'll take good care of Miss Shen for you. Yet despite my display matching the magnanimity he'd hoped for, his expression stiffened slightly, his gaze momentarily unfocused. After a long pause, his hand hanging at his side clenched and unclenched. He forced a smile. All right, thank you for your trouble. It wasn't trouble at all. Shen Jingyi and I weren't as hostile as he imagined, though she knelt before me the moment he left. Her choked words were words of gratitude. Miss Zhang, I remember your great kindness. If I ever have the chance, I will repay you. Truthfully, I hadn't seen her often. The last time was the day after I returned from the Taoist priest. That time, she had knelt before me too. She confessed frankly, Sister Zhang, the talisman Brother Heyun gave you wasn't for protection. It was to buy your magnanimity, so he could take me as his concubine. I heard he once promised you a lifetime of devotion to one woman only. Yet recently, he made the same promise to me. Sister Zhang, though it may not be my place to say this, his fickleness and inability to resist temptation make him perhaps not the best match for you. But with the mark branded on my face, he is already the best possible home for me. I didn't understand why she felt compelled to tell me all this. At that time, emotionally, I despised her. Yet rationally, I understood clearly, though she bore some blame. Even without Shen Jingyi today, there would be Chen Jingyi, Wang Jingyi tomorrow. Ultimately, it wasn't her arrival that changed Xie Heyun. Xie Heyun himself lacked resolve, incapable of remaining faithful. So that day, I pondered long and hard. Finally, I nodded. Very well. I'll grant you your wish. I proposed altering the marriage contract. I proposed that on our wedding day, she would take my place in the Xie family's bridal sedan chair. I proposed she become Xie Heyun's lawful wife. She didn't hesitate for a moment, nodding her agreement. Seeing through my ulterior motive, she even assured me, after the salt tax case is overturned, the imperial court will issue a sum of consolation silver. It will be enough for me to purchase my dowry. Sister needn't worry. If sister doesn't want Brother Heyun, you may also hand over the marriage contract and annulment papers to me. I'll bring them to the Xie residence on the wedding day. As long as Sister Zhang helps me become the mistress of the Xie household, I'll take full responsibility for whatever happens on our wedding day. I couldn't tell how much sincerity lay in her words, nor did I wish to confirm it. Lifting her from the ground, I smiled calmly. Why are you crying? The wedding is in 2 days. A bride must look her best. 6 Xie Heyun's perspective. On the wedding day, the Xie residence buzzed with activity. Everyone laughed and chatted joyfully. All congratulated Xie Heyun on marrying the Zhang family's daughter as he wished. Yes, though Xie Heyun had promised Shen Jingyi he would take her into the household today as well. He hadn't told anyone about it. He thought Mingyu was a lady of noble birth. He had to give her the dignity befitting a primary wife. Therefore, he had only sought that talisman to make her more virtuous and magnanimous, discussing it with her. Therefore, he had sent the 8-person palanquin to fetch her early today. Even for Shen Jingyi's smaller palanquin, he sent only 2 men to carry it, not even glancing at it himself. Yet despite everything unfolding exactly as he wished, lately he'd been plagued by a persistent unease. Today, too, had proceeded flawlessly. Still, he felt profoundly unsettled. This unease lingered until he brought his bride home. It persisted through the wedding rites, the toasts, and being ushered into the bridal chamber. Only when he saw Zhang Mingyu waiting for him on the wedding bed, her face covered by the red veil, did his restless heart finally find its anchor. He approached her, his voice gentle. Mingyu, we're finally married. Rest assured, though I brought aging into the household today, it was merely to repay a debt of gratitude. You are my wife. Neither she nor anyone else will ever threaten your place. On the wedding bed, the bride's form swayed slightly. Thinking Zhang Mingyu was moved, Xie Heyun suddenly felt a surge of urgency. He picked up the ceremonial scales. His heart pounded relentlessly in his chest, making his hands tremble. Fearing he might disturb his wife, he held his breath. The short distance felt like an eternity. Finally, he lifted a corner of the red veil. Mingyu, I promise you, I will never touch her again. Once today is over, we can go back to how we were before. He believed this heartfelt confession would earn Zhang Mingyu's understanding. He thought today would mark a new beginning for them. But beneath the lifted veil was a face streaming with tears, a face that did not belong to Jiang Mingyu. A thunderous buzzing erupted in his ears. He staggered, nearly falling. His mind went blank, the alcohol instantly evaporating. After a long, stunned silence, he finally found his voice. Jingyi, where is Mingyu? Why are you here? Shen Jingyi's voice was choked with emotion. Brother Heyun, didn't you read the marriage contract? The one you married was me all along. Xie Heyun's perspective. Shen Jingyi's words struck Xie Heyun like a thunderbolt once more. How could this be? He was clearly marrying Mingyu, taking Shen Jingyi only as a concubine. He had seen Mingyu writing the marriage contract with his own eyes. How could Shen Jingyi be the one he was marrying? Right, the side courtyard. Mingyu must be there. The sedan chair must have been mistaken. The servants must have delivered the wrong person. Thinking this, he rushed out as if clutching at a lifeline. But she wasn't there. The side courtyard was cold and desolate, utterly empty. The servant he'd sent to fetch her returned with news. The Jiang family said the concubine had already departed. We assumed they'd brought her here. Shen Jingyi followed him out, tears streaming down her face. She handed him 2 letters. One was a marriage contract, the other was a letter of annulment. The handwriting was identical, yet he checked and rechecked. The name on the annulment letter was still Mingyu, yet the name on the marriage contract was undeniably Shen Jingyi. Brother Heyun, you and Sister Jiang were never meant for each other. Her annulment was only a matter of time. Since we've completed the wedding rites, the ceremony is done. Let's not make this harder, okay? From now on, let's just live our lives peacefully. Shen Jingyi's voice buzzed like it came from the void. He couldn't make it out. Right now, his mind was filled only with Jiang Mingyu. Jiang Mingyu, who wrote the marriage contract. Jiang Mingyu, who was so obedient and magnanimous. Jiang Mingyu, who had so thoughtfully suggested Shen Jingyi marry into the Jiang family. No. Everything had seemed perfectly normal. How could Mingyu suddenly call off the engagement? He had to go to the Jiang residence. He had to get to the bottom of this. Xie Heyun dashed out like a madman, ignoring Shen Jingyi's cries, ignoring the astonished protests of the guests. He snatched a horse from a departing guest at the gate, galloped across the street, and raced straight to the Jiang residence. His eyes red, he shouted, Mingyu, open the door. When the gate was pounded open, my parents and I had been waiting for a long time. Today was a day of great joy for the Xie household. Yet the groom, after the wedding ceremony, had ridden off in disarray toward the bride's home. Sensing the commotion, crowds gathered on the street. Xie Heyun's hair was disheveled, his robes torn from galloping. People surrounded him, whispering and pointing. This was the scene that greeted me when the door opened. Yet Xie Heyun paid no heed to the murmurs around him. He clutched the marriage contract and the annulment papers tightly. His eyes, fixed on me, were bloodshot. They seemed filled with fury and agony. His voice raspy, he demanded, Mingyu, tell me, why has the bride become Shen Jingyi? I met his gaze calmly. Wasn't this Shen the one you wished to marry? Yes, I only intended to take her as a concubine. He shouted, his voice trembling. Mingyu, didn't we discuss this? Why is there a marriage annulment letter? Why is her name on the marriage contract? But when had we ever discussed it? Xie Heyun, you merely informed me, you never consulted me. You wanted Miss Shen. I magnanimously granted your wish. Isn't this what you desired? Why the anger? Perhaps my tone was too composed. Xie Heyun seemed incredulous. He roared, I don't want her. I only wanted you to accept her, to give her shelter. I cut him off coldly. Accept her. That means taking both wife and concubine. Having her enter the family on the same day as me? Though my Jiang family isn't a grand clan, we've been a respectable lineage for 100 years. If I willingly lower myself to marry into your Xie family today, how will my unbetrothed younger sisters ever find husbands? My words fell. The crowd erupted in commotion. take a concubine on the wedding day? But everyone says Magistrate Z is deeply in love with Miss Zhang. How could he take a concubine? And on their wedding day? HMPH, taking a concubine on the bride's wedding day? If she actually marries him, what kind of life can she expect? Isn't this openly slapping the Zhang family in the face? Not long ago, we heard Magistrate Z performed 3 kneels and 9 bows to pray for Miss Jiang's safety. We thought our county had produced a magistrate devoted to love. Who would have thought a TSK? Amidst the murmurs, Xie Heyun seemed to gradually comprehend that I had truly broken off the engagement. He staggered back to steps, murmuring in a daze, "How could this happen? It shouldn't be like this. Mingyu, you clearly cared for me. Why did you suddenly change?" He spoke. As if struck by a thought, he snapped back to clarity and cried urgently, "The talisman! It's because of that talisman you started changing. Mingyu, where is the talisman? Quickly bring it out and burn it. As long as you burn the talisman, you can return to normal." He charged forward like a madman, trying to grab me. The crowd erupted into chaos. My father shielded me. In the chaos, someone shoved Xie Heyun hard. He stumbled and fell. The person who pushed him stepped in front of me, shouting, "By order of the Crown Prince, I've tracked this fraudulent Taoist to his hideout. He lives in a thatched hut on South Mountain outside the city. Everyone, come see. If you've been deceived, bring your proof to reclaim your money." Seeing the bruised and battered Taoist being led away, the crowd erupted in an uproar. Only Xie Heyun, lying on the ground, stared wide-eyed in terror at the man before me. Whether it was the shattering of his last shred of hope, or something else entirely, he froze, the color draining from his face. He became as still as a wooden statue, as if the surrounding commotion no longer existed. The man turned to greet my father. "Sir," his gaze shifted to me. "Miss Zhang," he addressed me courteously, "has your cold improved?" Xie Heyun. I knew him. My father always praised him. He praised his cool temperament, his sharp mind, and his steadfast reliability. He also called him his most accomplished disciple. Yet this very man, who consistently ranked at the top of the academy in every examination, failed the imperial exams last spring. I heard that despite his failure, he unexpectedly became a guest scholar to the Crown Prince and remained in the capital. But over a year had passed, and I had never seen him. How did he know I suffered from cold syndrome? The occasion was unsuitable for asking. I gave a faint nod. Much better. Only then did Xie Heyun snap out of his daze. He leapt to his feet, demanding, "Xie Heyun, explain yourself. How dare you call that Taoist a fraud? Do you have proof?" He seemed unable to accept the truth. Like a madman, he grabbed the Taoist by the collar and shook him violently. "Speak. That talisman was genuine, wasn't it? You're no fraud. You're not. That talisman worked. It must have worked. Otherwise, how could Mingyu agree to let me take a concubine? How could she call off the engagement?" But the truth was as Xie Heyun. "Don't you understand?" I cut him off coldly, "whether that talisman worked or not. From the moment you proposed taking a concubine, I would never marry you. Let's end this here." With that, I turned away, ordering the gate closed. Xie Yun's return this time involved not only investigating a case, but also discussing matters with my father. My father had instructions for the steward and would be delayed. He asked me to escort Xie Yun to the parlor. We were not close. The journey passed in silence. Only when we reached the main hall's entrance, as I prepared to take my leave, did he suddenly speak. "Miss Zhang, Xie Heyun, his intentions are not pure. It is wise you refuse to marry him." His voice matched his demeanor. Xie Yun's tone was cool and detached. Yet inexplicably, I detected a hint of concern in his words. Surprised, I looked up in astonishment. Our eyes met, and his gaze was like a deep, dark pool. As if scalded, I shifted my eyes away uncomfortably. Instantly, I recalled his earlier words outside the door. "Young Master Xue, How did you know I suffered from a cold ailment? Caught off guard by my sudden question, Xie Heyun paused. Then he replied casually, after Imperial Physician Liu returned to the capital. I happened to hear about it. I nodded. After falling into the lake, I had a brush with death. None of the county's physicians could cure me. Fortunately, Imperial Physician Liu of the capital was visiting his hometown and passed through Hui County. He treated me with acupuncture and medicine, allowing me to scrape by with my life. So word of this had reached the capital after all. There was no time to dwell on it. My father arrived as they had serious matters to discuss. It was inappropriate for me to listen in. I excused myself and left. But an hour later, my father came to me with a frown, seeking my counsel. Xie Heyun has returned not only to investigate the case, but also to deliver a letter of recommendation from His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. The prince intends to recommend me for a teaching position at the Imperial Academy. If I accept, our entire family must relocate to the capital. Mingyu, moving is no small matter. Before discussing it with your mother, I wish to ask your opinion first. I understood his hesitation. He believed that though I had broken off our engagement, my heart still held lingering affection. He thought I needed more time. But I didn't. I hadn't needed it for a long time. Let's move. I smiled softly and said, Father, joining the Imperial Academy is a blessing. For days afterward, Xie Heyun stood guard outside the Zhang family gates. He wanted to see me. He called persistently outside the gate. Mingyu, come out. Let's talk properly, will you? Now, his desire to take both a wife and a concubine was common knowledge. After learning that the talisman he'd obtained through 3 prostrations and 9 kotos, paid for with a fortune, wasn't for my safety, but for my magnanimity during my illness. No one praised his devotion anymore. But it wasn't time to see him yet. I began to be busy. Though our relocation was settled, it wasn't something we could simply walk away from. After much discussion, my mother and I would enter the capital first to settle in. My father would properly hand over the academy before following later. Household chores and belongings were numerous. I spent my days busy with packing. By the time Xiangshu reminded me that Xie Heyun was still waiting outside to see me, it was already the 6th day. Xiangshu asked, Miss, shall we see him? After a moment's thought, I replied, Is it time to visit the herbalist today? Yes, today. Then let's go. Though my cold syndrome had improved greatly thanks to Imperial Physician Liu's acupuncture, I still needed to have my pulse taken and receive medicine every fortnight for maintenance. I knew leaving would mean encountering Xie Heyun. Sure enough, as soon as I dismounted at the pharmacy, he rushed over. On the street, he seized my wrist and asked painfully, Mingyu, why won't you see me? When I pulled away, he scrambled to explain. It's all Shen Jingyi's fault. She urged me to seek that talisman. She said she wanted to enter the same door as you on the same day. She said if she could get you to relent, things would be much simpler. Her family has done me a favor. I only wanted to repay that kindness, though I was blinded by obsession. If I search my heart, it all comes down to your inability to tolerate others. Mingyu, please take back the annulment papers. I gave up a promising future for you to return to Hui County. We've come this far, can't you show me some understanding? He sounded utterly aggrieved. His voice trembled softly. But now, it stirred not a shred of pity in me. Return to Hui County for me. That line I felt I'd heard it before. During Shen Jingyi's 2nd month living in his residence, he once invited me to admire plum blossoms in the suburban grove. He seemed to have said the same thing then. That day, he hadn't brought Shen Jingyi. Yet throughout our flower viewing, his mind wandered as if searching for something. Even when I spoke to him, his attention drifted. Only when I asked him did he smile and say, Jingyi also loves plum blossoms. She couldn't come today, but I promised her I'd pick the most beautiful one for her. But to me, they all look the same. Mingyu, why don't you choose one for me? Back then, Shen Jingyi was still his sister. He hadn't yet proposed taking her as a concubine. Yet his doting smile was unbearably glaring. I couldn't hold back and demanded we annul the engagement. His expression immediately turned cold. It's just a plum blossom, nothing precious. Mingyu, I remember you're not one to make unreasonable demands. After scolding me, he seemed to reconsider and tried to placate me. Mingyu, I gave up my promising career in the capital to return for you. Rest assured, I only see Jing as a sister. I'll never harbor any other intentions. No ulterior motives, of course. Repeating the same words too often turns them into excuses. I sighed softly, calmly meeting his stunned gaze. Xie Heyun, first, it is you who seeks to repay a debt. I owe no obligation to abandon my principles and boundaries for your kindness. Second, you accuse me of being intolerant. Yet before you proposed marriage, I made it clear I am not a magnanimous person. Furthermore, you claim to have no romantic feelings for Miss Shen, only a desire to repay a debt. But there are countless ways to repay a debt. You could give her a large sum of silver to ensure she lives out her days without want, or teach her a trade to earn her living. You could even find her a husband from a family of modest standing. Yet you chose to take her as your concubine. And you claim there's no romantic attachment? Ask anyone here who believes that. My voice was loud and cold. As the crowd slowly gathered, Xie Heyun's face paled. But I wasn't finished. You claim you returned to Hui County for me, blaming me for not understanding you. But if I truly mattered so much to you, why did you never once show concern when I was gravely ill? Instead, you used the excuse of praying for my recovery to send me that talisman urging me to be magnanimous, all while scheming to take another woman as your wife? You showed me no consideration when we were betrothed. Now, as Miss Shen's husband, you shift the blame onto her, harassing a woman on the street who has nothing to do with you anymore. Someone like you, who shows no consideration for anyone. What right do you have to expect others to show you any? I'm not one to speak much. Saying so much in one breath for the first time left me feeling exhausted. Xie Heyun was utterly taken aback, frozen in shock. Only the crowd murmured, voices low and hushed. Amidst the whispered chatter, it took Xie Heyun a long moment to snap back to reality. So you agreed to marry me not out of generosity, but because you'd already decided to abandon me? His eyes slowly reddened. Unmindful of the surrounding whispers, he took a step forward, reaching for my wrist. But before he could touch me, a hand suddenly pulled him back. He staggered 2 steps backward. Regaining his balance and looking up, he saw someone standing protectively in front of me. It was Xie Heyun. His back was turned to me. I couldn't see his expression, only hearing his voice, cold as ice. Xie Heyun, don't you understand how your marriage to Miss Zhang came about? Only then did Xie Heyun snap out of his daze. But as he looked at me, then at Xie Heyun, a look of sudden realization dawned on him, his expression darkening. I understand now. I understand. No wonder you suddenly changed your mind. It's because of Xie Heyun, isn't it? Raging beyond restraint, he roared without regard for decorum. Xie Heyun returned, and you rekindled your old flame? That's why you broke off our engagement on our wedding day. Mingyu, who do you truly love, me, or the man who passed you notes under the loquat tree? His words ignited fury. Xie Heyun punched him hard across the face. Onlookers scrambled to break up the fight, some pulling them apart. Amid the commotion, only I stood frozen. What did Xie Heyun mean? The one who passed me messages back then, wasn't it him? It was Xie Heyun? 2 years ago, my father accidentally sprained his ankle and became immobile. For a long time, he stayed at the academy. My mother worried and often sent me stews to deliver. During that period, whenever I left through the back mountain, I'd always see someone studying beneath the loquat tree halfway up the slope. That person wore scholars' robes, their back turned to me. I couldn't see their face. given the distinction between men and women. I never approached to speak, until one day when I returned home and found no one beneath the loquat tree. Instead, I picked up a discarded note. On it were 2 lines of a 7-character poem. Taking it upon myself, I added 2 more lines and placed it under a stone. After that, I often found new notes beneath the stone. At first, they were only poems. Later, they included biographies, essays, travelogues. Whatever I didn't understand, I'd write on a slip of paper. The next time I went to look under the stone, I'd find a unique perspective waiting for me. I assumed that person was Xie Heyun, because the last time I saw him standing under that loquat tree, holding a slip of paper, and I asked him, "Was it you who corresponded with me?" He blushed and nodded, not denying it. "Xie Heyun, the one who wrote to me, who solved my puzzles, wasn't that you?" Snapping back from my memories, I fixed my gaze on Xie Heyun, determined not to miss a single flicker of his expression. In my line of sight, Xie Heyun, who had been about to strike back, froze abruptly. He turned to look at me. The corners of his eyes gradually reddened, filled with unwillingness. After a long pause, he asked hoarsely, "Mingyu, so all this time, who did you truly love, me or the person who wrote to you?" He didn't deny it. He had all but admitted he'd taken Xie Yun's place. But his question left me speechless. Meeting the gaze both he and Xie Yun fixed on me, I couldn't even muster a sigh of fate's cruel joke, because until today, I had never imagined the person corresponding with me wasn't Xie Heyun. The turn of events was too absurd. Suddenly, I felt utterly exhausted, too drained even to respond. I climbed straight into the carriage and left. Xie Heyun didn't pursue me further. Xie Yun, however, was waiting outside the gates of the Zhang residence when I dismounted. Miss Zhang, clearly, he wasn't one for words either. After a long moment of deliberation, he finally began his explanation. "Miss Zhang, the truth is, the moment I saw the handwriting on that letter, I knew it was yours. I recognized your script from the annotations you made in the head steward's travels of Jiaxin. Family matters arose, and I had to rush back without saying goodbye. When I returned, I discovered you and Xie Heyun had already exchanged feelings. It wasn't until after last spring's imperial examinations that I found the letters you wrote to me in his belongings." Xie Yun didn't possess the delicate build typical of scholars. Compared to Xie Heyun, his features were deep-set and rugged. I hadn't noticed before, but now his broad shoulders and narrow waist gave him the build of a warrior, radiating strength. Yet his demeanor remained too cool and distant, making him seem unapproachable in a crowd. So even upon suddenly learning the truth, I struggled to connect him with the owner of those letters. Meeting his earnest gaze, my chest tightened inexplicably, a wave of bitterness rising within me. I couldn't quite place this sudden surge of emotion. Lowering my eyes, I asked, "Why didn't you tell me this sooner?" Had I known earlier, I wouldn't have grieved for Xie Heyun for nothing, nor would I have endured all this pain. Sensing my distress, Xie Yun paused briefly before speaking softly. "I thought you admired him, and that matters of the heart cannot be forced. When you chose him from among the marriage proposals, I believed you would be happy." A sharp sting in my nose suddenly drained me of strength. He was right. I had trusted Xie Heyun myself, failing to see his true nature. I had chosen him myself. I couldn't blame anyone else. Thinking this, I gave a self-mocking smile. Quickly composing myself, I thanked Xie Yun politely. "Thank you for saving me today, young Master Xue. My family has excellent healing herbs. I'll have them sent to your residence shortly, along with a token of my gratitude." As for those letters, though the misunderstanding is cleared, the matter has lingered too long. Let's put it behind us. As I spoke these words, I did not look at Xie Yun, nor did I notice the bitterness in his eyes. Only as I turned to enter the door did I hear him call softly behind me, "Miss Zhang." But I did not pause, nor did he pursue me. The confrontation in the street had served its purpose. Xie Heyun never came to trouble me again. Yet news of him still reached my ears in fragments. I heard that after returning that day, he sent Shen Jingyi away from the estate that very night, settling her outside the city. I heard he drowned his sorrows in drink night after night, falling unconscious several times while muttering, "Bright moon." I was wrong. I pretended not to know. I was too busy. Soon the day of departure arrived. Fearing complications, the Crown Prince kept my father's appointment to the Imperial Academy low-key. My mother and I entered the capital ahead of time, known only to a few clan elders. Worried about unexpected changes, my mother urged us to leave before dawn on the day of departure. Unexpectedly, at the city gate, we saw Xie Heyun and his party, also fully prepared. "Madam, the headmaster and I have agreed. The journey from Hui County to the capital is too long. We shall travel together this time, so we can look out for one another along the way." He was mounted on a horse. His words were addressed to my mother, but his gaze was fixed on me, standing beside her. My mother must have known about this beforehand. She didn't seem surprised. She smiled and thanked him. "In that case, thank you for your kindness." After politely nodding my greeting, I lowered the carriage curtain, shielding myself from his gaze. Xie Heyun was a man of few words. My mother possessed a quiet temperament, and I was no more talkative. The journey passed in silence, punctuated only by the clatter of hooves and the creak of wheels. The atmosphere grew oppressively still, until one of Xie Heyun's companions broke the frosty silence with a light-hearted jest. "Ah, we rushed here at full gallop to catch that fake Taoist, and now we must hurry back. It's exhausting." Another chimed in, "Old Jin and his crew have it better. They can wait a few days to escort the Taoist back to the capital. Still, we're not losing out. Once we return, Brother Xue will treat us to a feast. Speaking of which, Brother Xue, my legs are raw from riding on this mission. You're close with Imperial Physician Liu. Could you get me a few jars of ointment when we return? I hear his scar healing paste is a favorite among the palace ladies." "Bah, don't ask for that brat. He's just abusing his position for personal gain. Wants a couple jars of that ointment to impress his fiancée." The crowd roared with laughter. The atmosphere instantly grew lively. Yet their words stirred something within me. A thought flashed through my mind. But before I could grasp it, the carriage jerked to a sudden halt. The next instant, Xie Heyun bellowed, "Miss Zhang, take cover, bandits!" The bandits charged fiercely. In the blink of an eye, they surrounded the entire convoy. They came prepared, heading straight for my mother's carriage and mine. Though Xie Heyun's men were well trained, they couldn't withstand the overwhelming numbers and were quickly scattered. Only Xie Heyun remained, blocking the carriage. "Miss Zhang, flee now." His shoulder bore a wound, blood splattered across his forehead. Though he fought back with his sword, he struggled visibly, clearly unable to hold out much longer. I suspected the bandit's target was me, not wanting to endanger my mother. I hesitated only a moment before leaping from the carriage and dashing into the woods. Sure enough, the bandits showed no interest in prolonging the fight. Every last one of them gave chase after me. "Miss Zhang," Xie Heyun's expression turned horrified as he followed close behind. But he was a moment too late. A mounted bandit charged forward, swept me onto his horse with an outstretched arm, bound my hands with rope, and galloped away. The horse's back bucked violently. The jolting made my vision go dark. I had no strength left to struggle, nor could I cry for help. Through the haze, I could only see the figures behind me growing smaller and smaller until they vanished completely. I don't know how long it lasted. Long enough for me to pass out and wake up again. Before the bandits finally stopped in front of a small hut, he flung me from the horse, dismounted himself, knocked on the door, and called to the person inside. "I brought the man you wanted. Where's the silver?" The figure inside handed over a bundle. The voice was cold, yet strangely familiar. It was Xie Heyun. No one's pursuing us, right? Of course not. The money's here. Get out quickly. Remember to keep this confidential. By the time Xie Heyun dragged me into the house, I had regained consciousness. My stomach still churned violently. Glancing up at Xie Heyun's face, I couldn't hold back and retched. This seemed to provoke him. He flung me to the floor and crouched down. He snarled, "Mingyu, do you find me disgusting?" Disgusting. Of course, he was disgusting. But I didn't want to provoke him further just yet. So I didn't answer. Instead, I coldly retorted, "Why did you kidnap me? As a deputy magistrate, you collude with bandits." Xie Heyun, have you considered the consequences? Consequences? Of course I have. But didn't you force my hand? He crouched down. One hand lifted my chin, forcing me to look at him. Mingyu, do you hate me that much? Do you despise me that much? I've already admitted my mistake. Why did you leave with Xie Heyun without a word? Why wouldn't you give me even a moment, even a chance? He thought I was leaving with Xie Heyun this time. His teeth gritted. Since we met, I'd seen him speak softly and gently, and I'd seen him grow impatient. This was the first time I'd seen him so fierce, yet so self-righteous. And I couldn't help but freeze for a moment. But after the shock wore off, I found it amusing. He kept saying he knew he was wrong, yet he still believed everything was my doing. He claimed I never gave him a chance. But as Xie Heyun, ever since you handed me that ridiculous talisman, for 49 full days not a single day passed without me giving you a chance. It was you who never once considered being honest. When our eyes met, a flicker of pain crossed his gaze, but he refused to admit it. So this time, you truly won't forgive me? I shook my head. No, I can't. He refused to give up. Why? Because I saw it. He didn't understand what I meant. He froze. I didn't want to beat around the bush anymore. Sighing softly, I lifted my head and looked straight into his eyes. That day when heavy snow fell on the county, you and Miss Shen were trapped overnight at Deer Cry Villa. I was there too. Xie Heyun, I saw you kiss her. In that side room called Lotus Garden, you two were passionately entangled, indistinguishable from one another, and I fled in panic. Because I was too anxious, I slipped and fell into the lake. Otherwise, why do you think I was ill for so long? I went to Deer Cry Villa that day because I received a letter. Its urgent words claimed Xie Heyun was at the villa with urgent matters to discuss, demanding my presence. I went. Then I saw Shen Jingyi in the side room, her makeup concealing the branded mark emerging. Flushed from Xie Heyun's embrace, she knelt slowly, reaching to untie his sash. I saw Xie Heyun lift Shen Jingyi and carry her toward the bed. The scene was too revolting. I fled in panic. Distracted, I slipped on the snowy path and fell into the lake. On the second day of my illness, Shen Jingyi came. It was her first visit to me. Kneeling in tears, she confessed to writing the letter. Miss Zhang, she said, I only wanted you to see that Brother Heyun isn't worthy of your lifelong commitment. She added, it's been barely a month since Brother Heyun and I reunited. I merely offered a hint of temptation, and he was already captivated. It proves he harbored such feelings long ago. Back then, I despised them both and couldn't hear a word she said. Now, looking back, she was right. A fruit doesn't rot overnight. Neither do people. Now, Xie Heyun's actions and words only prove he was rotten to the core all along. So, Xie Heyun, thinking back now, I'm truly glad I chose to break off the engagement and not marry you. My tone was calm, but these words struck Xie Heyun like a dagger. His breath caught, his gaze locked on me, growing fiercer by the second. Though his lips curved into a smile, his voice was icy. Mingyu, I refuse to believe you feel nothing for me. Let's start over. Let's marry today. Once we consummate our marriage, we can return to how things were. I swear from this day forward, there will be no Shinji ing no one else. As he spoke, he actually pulled two sets of bright red wedding robes from a bundle beside him. At this moment, I was no longer shocked by Xie Heyun's method of winning me back by destroying my virtue. Nor did I fear it. He had no chance. For 2 days prior, I had received a letter from Shenjing. In it, she wrote that Xie Heyun had learned of my impending departure from Hui County and had gone mad. She went to the Xie residence to find him, only to stumble upon him making a deal with bandits. She warned me to be cautious. As an imperial official, colluding with bandits was a grave crime. Perhaps she was wounded by Xie Heyun's repeated betrayals, or perhaps she simply saw clearly enough to refuse being dragged down by him. The reason, I choose not to delve deeper. But this letter did awaken me. The prefectural office of Xianzhou lies not far from Hui County. The current magistrate, He Wenzhou, was once my father's student and later became his adopted son. As a child, he lived in our home for 2 years, like an older brother to me. 2 days ago, I had someone discreetly deliver a letter to him. Last night, he had already entered the city with his men, and today he followed the convoy from afar. Sure enough, just as Xie Heyun finished donning his crimson robe and was about to place another red robe upon me, the main gate burst open with a loud crash. Miss Zhang, footsteps echoed. The first to burst in wasn't He Wenzhou. It was Xie Heyun, utterly distraught. Miss Zhang, you're safe. You're safe. His hands trembled uncontrollably as he helped me up from the floor. He untied the ropes binding my hands, scanning me from head to toe. After confirming I was unharmed, he went berserk, punching Xie Heyun mercilessly. Punch after punch landed. Xie Heyun couldn't fight back. By the time He Wenzhou and his men rushed in to pull them apart, Xie Heyun had already passed out. They ordered Xie Heyun taken away. He Wenzhou then examined me. Satisfied I was unharmed, he murmured, "The escaped bandit leader has been captured." He confessed to the deal. "I'll take Xie Heyun back to the prefectural seat first. After submitting the petition, we'll determine his sentence. Don't worry about your foster mother. Your sister-in-law is with her. Go pack your things first before visiting, so she won't worry." Xie Heyun's entanglement finally drew to a close. I relaxed completely, nodded, and replied, "All right." He gave me a few more brief instructions before leading his men away, dragging the unconscious Xie Heyun with them. Once they were gone, only Xie Heyun and I remained. The surroundings grew quiet, and Xie Heyun gradually calmed down, realizing his earlier impulsiveness. Miss Zhang, his lips parted, as if to call my name, but I interrupted him. "Cui, you're injured." His shoulder bore a deep gash, blood staining his entire robe crimson. It was still oozing. Glancing around the room, I tore off a piece of my bright red robe and made a makeshift bandage for him. I thanked him. "Thank you for your help today, Cui." Then reminded him, "You should find a clinic to treat this wound. Infection would be troublesome." His thin lips pressed tightly together. He remained silent throughout. Only when I finished bandaging and prepared to leave did he call out to me, "Miss Zhang," as if he'd rehearsed it countless times, carefully weighing each word. He murmured softly, "Miss Zhang, I've thought about explaining. I've thought about fighting for you. I wanted to tell you that I was the one exchanging letters with you under the loquat tree. But the thought that even if you believed me, you'd still choose him, it made me afraid. I'm awkward by nature, not as eloquent as Xie Heyun. My only strength was my studies. I thought if I achieved a high rank in the imperial exams, I'd at least have the confidence to compete. But I failed." Someone folded a corner of my exam paper, invalidating it. He paused slightly, clenching the hand hanging at his side. He glanced once more in the direction Xie Heyun had departed before continuing. "This matter involves cheating in the imperial examinations. Though His Royal Highness the Crown Prince has uncovered some clues, the outcome remains uncertain. I dare not be presumptuous. As for you, Miss Zhang, your family background is distinguished, your talents exceptional, and you possess remarkable insight in all matters. You are the finest young lady I have ever known. Yet, no matter how I pondered it, I could not shake the feeling that I was unworthy of you. That is why I kept avoiding you. I'm sorry, if only I had told you sooner, you wouldn't have been deceived for so long." By the end of his words, his voice trembled softly. I was somewhat taken aback, surprised that, at this very moment, I could detect a hint of self-doubt in his words. But gradually, it all made sense. Truthfully, I had already guessed that though he was far away in the capital, he had been watching me, inquiring about me all along. Guessed that imperial physician Liu hadn't just happened to return home to visit relatives, but had been deliberately summoned back. But so what? I wasn't as good as he imagined. I was a bad girl. When Xie Heyun proposed taking a concubine, I could have ended the engagement outright. Instead, I waited until our wedding day to break it off, exposing his feigned devotion. I could have avoided Xie Heyun entirely, yet I deliberately confronted him in the street under the pretext of collecting medicine, making sure everyone knew the fault lay with him. Even with the letter in hand, I could have asked He Wengshan to arrest and interrogate him today. Instead, I chose to risk myself and create such a commotion. I just wanted him to taste the grievances, pain, and misunderstandings he had heaped upon me. I'm not magnanimous. Hate is hate. Resentment is resentment. And whatever the reason may be, Chue Gongzi, what's missed is missed. Taking a deep breath, I smiled at him lightly. Whatever reason kept you from explaining back then, whatever led to my mistaken identity, it's all in the past now. I don't wish to look back. A path taken in error, I will correct, but I won't retrace my steps. Look forward, life is still long. I think Xie Heyun understood that his clenched fists relaxed. Though his eyes remained cloudy and his smile bitter, his expression gradually softened. He said, "I understand, Miss Zhang." I nodded. "Let's go. We should meet up with the others first, then find an infirmary. The road to the capital is still long." I turned to leave. This time, he didn't call out to me, but behind me, I thought I heard him whisper very softly, "Yes, the road is long. There's no rush." The end.